It started with my cat, Luna, sitting by the window every night, staring so intently that it felt like she was watching something no one else could see. For weeks, I thought it was just a quirk, until one night I saw it too. And what I saw changed everything I believed about the world outside my little apartment. I live in a quiet corner of Portland, Oregon, a neighborhood where the rain often falls soft and steady, turning streets slick and shiny under the amber glow of streetlights. This was late fall, the kind of November that seems to stretch endlessly, with fog hugging the ground and the air smelling faintly of damp earth and wood smoke. It's the sort of place where the city noise fades to a whisper by 9, and even the birds seem to tuck in early. Luna came into my life about 2 years ago, a stray I found curled up on the doorstep of my apartment building on a chilly October evening. She was scrawny, with fur matted like she'd been caught in a storm, but those eyes, big, bright, and a vivid green, were like little lanterns cutting through the dusk. She looked up at me with this quiet plea, and something inside me just cracked. I took her in. From the moment Luna settled into my home, she made it clear she had routines. She was a cat of habits, morning cuddles, midday sunbathing on the windowsill, and, most curiously, at night, she'd vanish from the living room and reappear by the window in the bedroom. This window wasn't just any window. It framed a narrow alleyway behind our building, cluttered with old fire escapes, rusted bicycles, and the occasional stray cardboard box. Not exactly scenic, but every night, like clockwork, Luna would sit there, perfectly still, her eyes locked onto something beyond the glass. At first, I thought maybe she was watching the occasional raccoon or a stray dog that wandered through. Portland's alleyways are their own little wild frontier at night. But no matter what I looked for, I never saw anything that held her attention. She wouldn't blink, twitch her ears, or even shift her gaze. It was like she was in a trance, focused on something invisible. I tried everything to distract her, tossing toys, opening the window for fresh air, even playing music. But Luna's fixation never wavered. The deeper I watched her, the more unsettling it felt. It wasn't normal cat behavior. Cats are curious, yes, but this was something else, something that felt heavy, charged with a kind of quiet urgency. The nights grew colder, and the rain started to pick up in earnest. That's when the weirdness began. Luna's routine became almost ritualistic. She'd jump onto the windowsill around 10 p.m., settle in with her paws tucked neatly under her chest, and her eyes would flicker in the dim light, fixed on the alley. The way she watched, almost like she was waiting for someone. I'm not even sure when it dawned on me that I was watching her more than she was watching the outside world. Maybe it was the way her tail twitched in subtle rhythms, or the faint, almost imperceptible growl that rumbled low in her throat some nights. And sometimes she'd let out these soft, desperate meows, like she was calling out to something or someone. I began to feel uneasy, like there was a story I was missing. Something dark hiding just out of sight. One rainy Thursday, about 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, the feeling hit me full force. I had just gotten home late from work, wet, tired, and craving nothing but my bed. Luna greeted me at the door, but she was different, restless. She circled my legs, then darted to the bedroom window. I followed her, half expecting the usual stare into the alley. But that night, the alley looked empty and dull, just the usual trash bins and a flickering street lamp. Then, in the corner of my eye, I saw it, a shadow. Not a cat or a person, but something taller, darker, and moving. It slipped behind the fire escape like it didn't want to be seen. Luna's eyes locked onto it, and for the first time, she meowed loudly, urgent, almost panicked. It was the kind of cry I'd never heard from her before, a sharp, piercing sound that filled the room. I froze. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. My heart hammered, every nerve on edge. Was it a person? Someone dangerous? A trick of the light? I strained to see more, but the shadow had disappeared. After that night, Luna's behavior intensified. She became more protective, pacing near me, hissing at the window whenever the shadow appeared. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was out there wasn't just a random presence. It was connected to Luna, to the strange urgency in her gaze. One night, I woke up to a soft scratching sound. Luna was at the window, claws tapping lightly against the glass. Outside, rain blurred the streetlights into long, ghostly streaks. The shadow came again, slower this time, like it wanted to be seen. And then I saw it. Not just a silhouette, but a shape. Something almost human but wrong, warped by the dim light and rain. It didn't move like a person. It moved differently, like it was slipping between worlds. I wanted to scream, to shut the window and lock the door. But Luna's eyes were fixed on it, full of fierce determination and something heartbreaking, like she was waiting for it, or maybe guarding me from it. That's when I realized this wasn't just a story about a cat with a strange habit. This was something deeper, something I didn't understand yet, but was about to pull me into a mystery that stretched beyond my little apartment and the rainy streets of Portland. I didn't know what that shape was, but I knew one thing. Luna was trying to tell me something important, and I was finally ready to listen. I didn't sleep that night. The rain pattered steadily against the window pane, a soft but relentless rhythm, while Luna remained motionless on the sill, eyes glowing faintly in the dark room. The weird thing was, I didn't want to move away from the window. Something had shifted in me, some strange, invisible thread that tethered my attention to that alley, to whatever was lurking out there. I sat down carefully on the edge of the bed, eyes glued to Luna's green gaze. Her breathing was slow but tense, her ears pivoted like radar dishes, catching every whisper of sound from the outside world. The apartment around me faded. No hum of the refrigerator, no distant city sounds, just the crackling silence and Luna's steady vigil. My mind was racing, but part of me was strangely calm, like I was watching a movie I couldn't pause or turn off. In the dim glow of the streetlight outside, the alley looked even grayer and more forgotten than usual. Rusted bicycles leaned crooked against brick walls. Garbage bins overflowed with soggy cardboard, and the wet pavement shimmered with reflections of neon signs from the street around the corner. And then, something moved. Not the shadow from before, but a figure. A woman, I think. She was small, wearing a heavy coat that swallowed her frame with a scarf pulled tight around her face. She moved slowly, almost cautiously, as if afraid to be seen. The alley was supposed to be empty this late. No one ventured back here unless they had a reason. Luna's tail flicked sharply. I leaned forward, trying to see more clearly, but the rain had started again, thick and relentless, blurring everything into watery strokes. The woman vanished behind a dumpster, then reappeared a moment later with something in her hands, a small bundle wrapped in cloth. I blinked, heart tightening. What was she doing here? Why was she hiding something? Then, As if sensing me watching, Luna hissed, a low, guttural warning. Her fur bristled along her spine. The woman froze. I swear, she looked directly at the window where Luna and I sat, like she knew we were there. That moment broke the spell. The woman disappeared into the shadows, and Luna stopped hissing, but didn't move from the sill. I wanted to run after her, to get a better look, but the rain was relentless and the alley was like a maze of dark corners and dangerous silence. Besides, what could I say? Hey, I saw you hiding something. So instead, I sat back, my mind buzzing with questions. 2 days later, I was at work, a small bookstore just down the street from my apartment, trying to focus on folding new shipments of novels when my phone buzzed with a message from my neighbor Marcy. Hey, did you hear about the missing girl? Police are asking questions around the neighborhood. I felt a cold trickle run down my spine. Missing girl? What girl? I typed back quickly. Marcy replied almost immediately. Name's Emily. Last seen 2 nights ago, small, dark hair. They found some of her things near that alley behind your building. My breath caught. Could it be the woman I saw? That night, after work, I didn't rush home. Instead, I walked to the edge of the alley, the same spot Luna stared at every night. The city felt heavier here, the air thick with cold and damp, the silence broken only by distant sirens. I crouched down where the police tape had been stretched across one side of the alley, where the officers had been taking pictures. On the ground, I saw something half buried under wet leaves. A small, folded scarf, the same color as the one the woman had worn. I picked it up carefully, holding it like a fragile piece of a puzzle I wasn't sure I wanted to solve. At home, Luna waited by the window as usual. But this time, when I sat down beside her, she turned and looked at me, eyes wide, almost expectant. Luna, what do you know? I whispered. She blinked slowly, a cat's version of trust. For the first time, I wondered if she had been trying to protect me, or someone else. Over the next few nights, the routine deepened. Luna stared. I watched. Shadows flickered. And then, just as I began to doubt myself, the woman, or what I thought was the woman, returned. This time, I had my phone ready. It was a bitter, starless night. The alley smelled of wet concrete and rotting leaves. Luna's tail twitched like a metronome. The figure stepped into the dim light. This time, I could see her clearly. A young woman, but with something strange about her movements. She didn't walk like a person. It was more like a hesitant glide, as if she was tethered between 2 places. I raised my phone, but as I started to record, she vanished. Just like that. One moment there, the next, gone. Luna meowed softly and leapt down from the windowsill to brush against my leg, as if saying, I told you. That night, I barely slept. Why was this woman haunting the alley behind my building? Why did Luna react the way she did, like she recognized her? I remembered when I first found Luna, how she'd shivered in my arms and refused to come inside at first, how she'd sniffed the night air with urgency. I wondered if Luna had seen something that belonged to that woman. I started digging. The news was quiet, just a few mentions of Emily, the missing girl, a few worried neighbors, and police investigations. But in the hours of scouring local forums and neighborhood groups, I found whispers, stories about strange lights in the alley, sounds like whispered voices, and sightings of a ghostly figure wandering in the rain. Some people thought it was a homeless woman, others said it was a spirit. One commenter even mentioned a cat that stared at the alley every night, refusing to look away. I laughed nervously. Could it really be Luna? And then came the message that sent chills down my spine. An old woman named Mrs. Jenkins, who lived a few blocks away, reached out to me through the neighborhood app. She said she had once known a girl named Emily, a sweet kid who disappeared under mysterious circumstances years ago. She told me to be careful, that some things were better left alone, but I couldn't stop. Not now. I realized that this wasn't just about a missing person or cat's odd habit. It was about something deeper, a connection between Luna, the woman in the alley, and a mystery that stretched back years, wrapped in silence and shadows. Every night, as the rain fell and the city quieted, Luna's gaze pulled me closer to the edge of something I didn't yet understand. And I was afraid. Not just for me, but for Luna, and for whatever story was trying to be told through her eyes. Because sometimes, the most ordinary nights hide the most extraordinary secrets. The more I tried to make sense of what was happening, the more I realized I was stepping into something that didn't fit the neat little boxes of logic and reason. I'm not usually a superstitious person. I'm a software developer, trained to trust data and facts. But that fall in Portland, the steady rain, the shadows in the alley, and Luna's unwavering stare started chipping away at my skepticism. One night, after a particularly long day, I was sitting at my kitchen table, half listening to the rain drum on the roof and scrolling through the neighborhood app again. That's when I saw it. A message from Mrs. Jenkins, the old woman who'd warned me. Her words stuck with me, more like a riddle than a warning. You see what the cat sees, but be careful. Some windows should never be opened. I stared at the screen, the words pulsing like a heartbeat in the silence of my apartment. What did she mean? What windows? The next evening, I decided I couldn't just watch anymore. I had to get outside, to stand in that alley where Luna fixed her gaze every night. It was past 10 when I stepped out into the wet night. The streets were slick with rain, the city lights shimmering off the pavement like scattered jewels. The air was cold and sharp, and the scent of wet leaves and earth was thick around me. As I approached the alley, I saw Luna already waiting at the entrance, her green eyes glowing in the dim light. She didn't hesitate when I called her name, just slipped through the narrow gap between buildings like a shadow. The alley was narrower than I remembered. The fire escapes above looked like jagged teeth against the brick walls. The usual trash bins and discarded boxes seemed darker, somehow heavier, as if the rain had soaked up more than just water. Luna stopped halfway down and looked back at me. It was an invitation, or maybe a warning. I swallowed my fear and followed her. That's when I heard it, a soft sound, almost like a whisper, too faint to be words, but too rhythmic to be random. The alley had a pulse, a breath, like it was alive in some secret way I hadn't noticed before. Luna's ears flattened briefly, and she crouched low to the ground. Her body tensed, ready to bolt. I froze too. Then, out of the shadows, she appeared again. The woman, Emily. But this time, she wasn't just a silhouette. She was fully there, standing in the middle of the alley, soaked by the rain, pale and shaking. I wanted to call out to her, to ask if she was okay, but my voice caught in my throat. She looked up slowly, her eyes wide and dark, staring right through me, like I was invisible. Luna hissed, arching her back, and for a moment I thought the woman might vanish like a ghost, but she stayed, her gaze fixed on the window behind me, the one I'd been watching every night. "Emily?" I finally whispered, my voice trembling. She blinked, and her lips moved, but no sound came out. It was like she was trapped, caught between worlds, unable to break free. I stepped closer, heart pounding, desperate to help. "Who are you?" I asked. Still nothing. The alley grew colder, and the rain slowed to a mist. Luna brushed against my legs, her green eyes flicking between Emily and me. Then she did something I didn't expect. She reached up and tapped the woman's ankle with her paw. It was a gentle gesture, but it seemed to break something. Emily's eyes softened, and for a brief moment, she smiled. A fragile, sad smile that made my chest ache. Then she bent down and pulled the cloth bundle from beneath her coat, opening it slowly. Inside was a tiny, scrunched-up kitten, wrapped in a soaked blanket. My breath caught. Emily looked up at me, her eyes pleading. I didn't hesitate. I reached out, took the kitten carefully, feeling its faint heartbeat against my palm. Suddenly, the night shifted. The mist thickened, swirling around us like smoke, and the woman's form flickered, blurring at the edges. "Please," she whispered at last, voice barely audible over the rain. "Keep her safe." And then, just like that, she was gone. Only Luna and I remained in the alley, the kitten trembling softly in my hands. I carried the kitten inside, wrapping her in a warm towel, and Luna immediately curled up next to her, purring like a tiny engine. I sat down, still shaking. Who was Emily? How had she disappeared for so long? And why had she left this kitten behind, entrusting her to a stranger? To me? Over the next few days, I started piecing together more about Emily's story. Mrs. Jenkins told me Emily had vanished without a trace almost 5 years ago. The official line was that she ran away. But neighbors whispered about something darker, a secret Emily had tried to escape. Some said she was involved in a fight with dangerous people. Others believed she had uncovered something in the neighborhood that got her into trouble. No one knew for sure. What I did know was that Luna's nightly vigils had been a kind of watch, a guard against something unseen. I thought a lot about the kitten. I named her Mistral, after the windstorms that sometimes sweep through Portland in late fall. Fierce, unpredictable, and full of hidden power. Mistral grew quickly, with Luna taking on the role of protector and mentor. Watching them together was like witnessing a silent pact between two survivors. But the mystery of Emily lingered, hanging over me like the fog that never quite lifted. I kept staring out that window every night, waiting for answers that didn't come. And I kept wondering, how many secrets are hidden in the quiet places we think we know? How many stories are whispered just beyond our sight, waiting for someone to listen? Luna and I were connected to something bigger than a missing person case or a stray cat's habit. We were part of a story about love, loss, and the fragile threads that tie us all together, across time, space, and even worlds. That night, as I lay in bed, Luna curled beside me. I realized something else. Sometimes, the eyes that watch the window don't just see the world we know. They see what's been lost. They see what's waiting. And sometimes, they see us back. In the days that followed Emily's disappearance from the alley and the unexpected arrival of Mistral, that fragile little kitten wrapped in a rain-soaked blanket, I felt the weight of something larger pressing down on me. Luna's nightly vigil didn't soften. It only grew more intense, more urgent, as if she was waiting for something or someone to come back. I spent every waking moment piecing together Emily's story, chasing every whisper and rumor I could find. I talked to neighbors, visited the police station, and scoured local news archives. But the deeper I dug, the more tangled it became, like a web of silence and half-truths. Emily was no ordinary missing person. It wasn't until I met Jenny, Emily's younger sister, that things started to come into focus. Jenny had recently moved to Portland, a recent college grad working as a barista at a small coffee shop just 2 blocks from my apartment. When I reached out to her, hoping for answers, I was met with guarded eyes and tight lips. She was hesitant to talk about Emily at first, the wounds still raw after all these years. But when I showed her a picture of Luna and told her about the cat's strange behavior, the way she stared at the window every night, like she was watching out for Emily, it was like something shifted. Jenny's face softened, a mixture of relief and sorrow washing over her. She told me that Emily had always loved animals, especially cats. She believed that Luna's behavior wasn't coincidence, it was connection. Like Luna was a bridge between Emily's world and ours. One afternoon, Jenny and I sat in a quiet corner of the coffee shop, rain tapping gently against the windows, talking about everything and nothing. It felt strange to connect with someone I barely knew over a story that felt like it belonged to the city itself. Jenny said that Emily had been different from the start. Sensitive, perceptive, sometimes distant. She hinted at troubles we never fully understood. Strange phone calls, mysterious meetings, a growing fear that had kept Emily awake at night. She pulled out a worn notebook, its pages yellowed and filled with handwritten notes and sketches. It was Emily's journal. We flipped through the pages, each one revealing a glimpse into a world I hadn't imagined. Cryptic entries about shadows that walk, voices in the rain, and things seen through windows that should never be opened. Jenny said Emily had started seeing things no one else could see. Back in my apartment, with Luna and Mistral curled up on the windowsill, I read Emily's journal late into the night. The entries were haunting and beautiful, filled with a mixture of hope and despair. One passage stood out. They come when the rain falls hardest, slipping between the cracks of the world. I don't know if they are ghosts, memories, or something else entirely. Luna watches them too. She's not afraid. Maybe she's the only one who understands. I felt a chill run down my spine. Was Luna more than just a cat? Was she a guardian? A witness? Then came the night the sky opened up with thunder, the kind that shakes the city to its core. I woke to Luna pawing at my face urgently, eyes wide and shimmering with fear. The rain was pounding against the window like a drum, lightning flashing in jagged sheets. Outside, the alley was flooded, water rushing in rivers between the bricks. And then I saw it, the shadow. Not just one, but many, swirling in the floodwaters, moving with a purpose. They were neither fully human nor fully shadow, slipping through the night like smoke. Luna stared unblinking, her fur bristling. I felt a strange pull, a tug at the edges of reality. Suddenly, the window fogged over and a voice, a whisper so faint I almost missed it, came through. Find her. It was neither a command nor a plea, more like a thread woven into the storm, a message that fractured my thoughts. I knew then that Emily's disappearance was not just about running away or being lost. It was about being trapped between worlds. The next morning, soaked to the bone and exhausted, I met Jenny again. I showed her the journal entry and told her about the night, the shadows, and the voice. Her eyes filled with tears. "We have to find her," Jenny said. "I've been too scared to say it out loud, but I think Emily is still here, somewhere between us. She's waiting for help." And in that moment, I realized how deeply connected we all were. Me, Luna, Mistral, Jenny, and Emily. We were all caught in the same story, the same mystery, drawn together by forces beyond our understanding. Over the following weeks, Luna's behavior became even more intense. She'd pace near the window during storms, meow plaintively when the rain started, and sometimes scratch at the glass, as if trying to open a door only she could see. One evening, Jenny and I decided to follow Luna's lead. We stood by the window, watching the alley, waiting for the storm to arrive. When it did, the air was electric. The shadows emerged, more clearly this time, weaving through the rain, and then something miraculous happened. Luna leapt from the windowsill and darted into the alley. Without hesitation, I followed, Jenny close behind. The city was a blur of rain and light. Luna led us through puddles and dark corners until we reached a spot near the old fire escape. There, in a pool of moonlight, lay a small door carved into the brick wall, almost invisible except for a faint glow emanating from within. I reached out and touched the door. It was warm. Jenny and I exchanged a look. Luna sat quietly, eyes steady. We didn't know what was behind that door or if we were ready for what we might find. But one thing was clear. Some windows, some doors, are opened for a reason. And sometimes, the love of a cat can be the key to unlocking mysteries that have been waiting in the shadows for years. That night, as we stepped through the door, Luna leading the way, I knew our lives would never be the same. Because sometimes, the most ordinary nights hold the most extraordinary beginnings. The moment I stepped through that door in the alley, the door that only Luna seemed to know about, everything changed. The cold, damp night of Portland was gone, replaced by a strange warmth, like the soft glow of dawn filtering through a dense forest. But it wasn't dawn. It was something else entirely. Jenny and I followed Luna through the narrow passageway behind the brick wall, a tunnel that twisted and turned as if carved from the very shadows themselves. The air smelled faintly of earth and rain, but there was a whisper of something unfamiliar, something ancient, almost alive. Luna walked ahead, confident and purposeful, her tail flicking like a tiny conductor's baton in the dim light. After what felt like an eternity, the tunnel opened into a small, forgotten courtyard, bathed in silvery moonlight. The rain had stopped, but the air was thick with moisture and the sound of distant dripping water. In the center of the courtyard stood a bench, worn and moss-covered, and on it, almost impossibly, was Emily. She looked exactly as I remembered, pale, soaked, and fragile. But here, in the soft glow of this hidden place, there was a calmness about her, like she was no longer trapped, but finally free. Her eyes found mine immediately, and for the first time, she spoke. "I've been waiting," Emily whispered, voice trembling but clear. Waiting for someone to see me, for someone to listen. The weight of those words hit me hard. "I didn't know where I was going," she continued. "One moment, I was running, scared. The next, I was lost between worlds, between the rain and the shadows. But Luna, she never left me. She kept watch." Jenny and I exchanged glances. We had spent so much time chasing ghosts, but here was the truth, simple and heartbreaking. Emily reached out her hand toward Luna, who approached cautiously, brushing her head against Emily's fingers. The kitten, Mistral, appeared beside her, tiny and shivering, but alive. "It's not just a story about a missing girl," Emily said softly. "It's about the places where pain gets stuck, where people vanish because no one sees them. The shadows you saw, they're the lost parts of the city, the stories left untold." Her words made me think about how easy it is to overlook the quiet corners of our lives, the lonely people, the silenced voices. Emily's story was a reminder, but then the courtyard began to shift. The moonlight dimmed. The walls around us seemed to pulse and move. I felt a cold wind rise, carrying whispers and murmurs that were barely human. Emily looked worried. "They're coming," she said, voice urgent. "The shadows, they don't want me here. They want me back in the dark." Luna's fur stood on end. She hissed and crouched low. Jenny and I felt the pressure too. The very air seemed charged with something dangerous. Without warning, the shadows surged from the edges of the courtyard like smoke, swirling around us with terrible speed. I grabbed Jenny's arm. "We have to get out!" I shouted. Luna darted forward, weaving through the misty forms like a guardian, protecting Emily and Mistral. I felt a surge of fear. The shadows weren't just cold shapes. They were memories, regrets, lost souls grasping at the edges of life. But then, in the middle of the chaos, something extraordinary happened. Emily knelt, whispering words I couldn't understand. The shadows recoiled, like they were afraid of her voice. She looked up at us, eyes fierce with a strength I hadn't seen before. "This ends now," she said. With a sudden brilliant light, the courtyard brightened. The shadows shrieked and dissolved into the night air, leaving only silence. We stood there, trembling, but safe. Emily smiled, a real smile this time. "I'm free," she said, and for the first time in years, the weight on her shoulders lifted. Jenny and I helped Emily back through the tunnel, Luna and Mistral leading the way. When we emerged into the cold dawn of Portland, the city looked different, softer, warmer, as if the night's shadows had been lifted. Emily looked at me, her eyes shining with gratitude. "Thank you," she said, "for seeing me, for trusting the cat." Luna purred, rubbing against her leg. Back in my apartment, Luna settled back onto the windowsill, but her stare was different now, softer, peaceful. Mistral curled up beside her, finally safe and warm. I sat down, my mind racing but calm. The story of Emily, Luna, and Mistral is a reminder that sometimes the world is bigger and stranger than we realize. That animals see things we can't, the lost souls, the broken stories, the windows between worlds. And sometimes it takes a cat staring at a rain-soaked alley night after night to remind us of the unseen. So the next time your cat stares out the window for no reason you understand, maybe they're not just watching. Maybe they're waiting for you to see. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and share. And remember, sometimes the smallest creatures carry the biggest mysteries.